Hello, Whovians, and welcome back to the main channel. Yes, we're doing another interview on the main channel. Now, like to admin, this time for the wonderful podcast, The Blue Box Files. If you're listening to this in audio form, yes, I brought that back. What I mean by that is I've backdated because I had a few missing and worked out that even though you can't do videos through SoundCloud, they do accept video formats. How bizarre, but I don't make the software, neither do they, because it's a website. So no one makes a software called SoundCloud because it doesn't exist. The website exists, not the software. But my blunders aside, today we're doing a very special interview. Yes, very special in the world of Doctor Who. My guest today is best known as working, and we're going to find out more about it, working in the realm of Doctor Who magazine. Yes, the greatest magazine of Doctor Who, because you can't say it's the greatest magazine of all time because then you could have not read every magazine that ever existed. So who knows if you can say that? But I will say that, and you could probably see some in my background facing the wrong way. So please welcome my guest, the wonderful Jason Quinn.
Oh, stop, and you stop too, Bonnie. Right, shush. Hi, hello, and thanks. Will you be quiet? And thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. So we'll start to the very beginning.
Yes.
It's always a good place to start. Even Julie Andrews thinks that, and I'll take her word for it. How did you get into Doctor Who?
Wow, how did I get into Doctor Who? Ever?
Ever, yeah, ever.
Well, as a kid, it's probably my earliest memory, I think, just about, is watching Doctor Who. And it would be it must have been around 1967. Now I'm sure it was the Cybermats in Tomb of the Cybermen. Now I don't remember. I remember being fascinated by them, these little things, which is weird when you consider you've got great big hulking Cybermen wandering around. But the thing that stuck in my mind were the little Cybermats. That, and then also then the other early memory was the Yeti. So it's been with me like all my life, Doctor Who, and it's been, an important part. It's one of those comfort food kind of things that you'll put it on if you're feeling a bit under the weather or anything like that. So yeah, it's always been there right from the word go for me. And I must have watched it before that Cybermats thing, but that's the one that stuck in my memory, and it's still clear.
Yeah. And then how did you get into actually writing in general?
Writing in general. Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, I always wanted to be an actor to start with. Like ever, from being a kid, I wanted to be an actor, but more specifically, I wanted to be a monster actor. I loved all those old Universal horror films like The Bride of Frankenstein and things like that. And I wanted to I wanted to play monsters. And of course, watching Doctor Who, there were plenty of monsters in there. And teachers, being teachers, say, oh, you can't do that. There's no such thing as a monster actor. I mean, there is, but there weren't that many. Anyway, I trained to be an actor, and then I wasn't very good and found myself getting really, really upset whenever I wouldn't get a part, even if it was a part in a TV show that I would never normally watch, that I didn't particularly like, but I would be really upset that I can't believe I didn't get it. No. And I think, why am I getting upset about not appearing in something that I wouldn't even watch? And so I started writing, and I started writing my own plays and things that we put on. And then got into writing comic books. So that was how it started, really. And I started writing comic books and then editing as well. I was lucky to get a job at what was then Marvel UK, and then Panini bought it out. And then I stayed with them for ages, and finally I left to go and work in TV for a bit, at Pinewood Studios. Um, so I left comics and things behind for a bit, but then after a couple of years, TV is really hard work behind the scenes. It's exhausting. And after a few years, I kind of got a bit burnt out, and I thought, oh, I'm going back to comics. There's less egos attached to it. So I went back to I went freelance and ended up living in Spain and then India, working for an Indian comic book company, as their creative director. And so I was over there for a good few years. And I love India, loved it, but I wasn't so mad about the summers there because in Delhi, it was hot, but it wasn't like sunbathing weather, because it would be quite smoggy, and also it would just burn. If you're outdoors for more than a couple of minutes, it was unbearable. And I really thought, God, if I spend another summer here, it's going to kill me. So I was lucky enough to be asked back to Panini then to work on Doctor Who Adventures, the younger magazine, which was still going then. So that's how I got into writing and editing and things like that. And then how I ended up back at Panini, who are the publishers of Doctor Who magazine.
And how come Doctor Who magazine Adventure, the younger edition, how come that decided to close its doors?
Yeah, I wish it hadn't, and I hope one day it comes back because it's a great little mag. But at that stage, it went at its height before I killed it off. At its height, it was selling so well. It was, and there was Doctor Who mania at that point. David Tennant was in his second season, I think, and it did so well, and so and it was huge. The sales were great. But sales slowly started to drift off. And I guess a lot of the readers grew up, grew older. Some would have gone on to Doctor Who magazine. Some would have just gone on to other things. That's a weird thing about growing up, and I did it as well for a while. I loved Doctor Who through all my childhood.
Yeah.
And then I think I must have got to about 14. No, I was a late developer, but maybe 15. And I suddenly started thinking, oh, this is childish. It's no way grown up enough for me. And, I stopped watching, not for long,
Yeah.
for actually, for about I probably missed about 2 years of it. And then when I moved down to London to go to drama school, and I started watching again, and I was, it gave me some of the comforts of home, and it was, and I thought, who cares if some people think it's childish? It's good to be childish, and hey, I'm childish. And I gave up trying to be grown up and adult, and thought, nah, it's much better to embrace the child within,
Yeah.
and
And do you reckon that like Doctor Who magazine, the Adventure edition, could return and be as successful as it once was?
Well, I would love it to. Yeah, I would, I would love for us to bring it back at some stage. I kind of think, in the next year or so would be the time to do it if it's going to happen at all, because I think right now there's more interest in Doctor Who than there has been since it came back in 2005, or since maybe 2006, 2007, when David Tennant came in and it really captured the whole nation's imagination, and it became something that the whole family could watch and enjoy. And I get the feeling with Shruti Gatwa that that's going to happen again. It's exciting times for Doctor Who. So yeah, I would love to bring that back. I don't know how we'd find time to do it, but I would love to do it. Yeah.
And one of the things that you've done, other than the Adventure range, what was it like working on the main range of just normal Doctor Who magazine?
Oh gosh, it's I'd love to say, oh, it's the pressure's so much, and and it's relentless, and it's such hard work. And actually it is all of those. There is pressure to please people. Nobody wants to put out something that's rubbish. You want to do the best you can, and you want to appeal. You can never please everyone all the time, but you want to please as many of the people that you possibly can. And there'll be some things you do that not everyone will like, or you might think, oh, okay. But on the whole, I mean, basically, actually, completely, it's such fun,
Yeah.
and it's so exciting, and it's a real privilege, not only to be on this magazine that I've read since I was a teenager, but also to, be a part of Doctor Who, to even if it's an observer, which is basically what Doctor Who magazine does. It observes, it writes about it, it reports on it, and gets back. But to be able to have some role in such a program that brings so much joy to so many people, it's a privilege, and it's an honor, and it's such a lot of fun.
Mm.
And one of the things that you often see online, you see a lot of negativity and stuff, and sort of angry people there. But with the crowd working on Doctor Who at the BBC and at Bad Wolf and everything, what struck me as so exciting, and that I hadn't seen since I lived in India, was everybody loves this show. Everybody who works on it gets a buzz out of it, and about what they're doing, and about the direction it's moving in, and the fun of it. And whenever I go up there to Cardiff to see them, I'm always struck by not only how helpful they all are, but how really into it they are. How they just, everyone feels like I do, they feel thrilled to be playing a part, whether it's a small part or a massive part like Russell T Davies plays. Everybody has that fanboy or fangirl, or fan them kind of feel for it, of wow, can't believe we're doing this. And you even get that, and I mean, you must have, when you've spoken to, the cast or people here, everyone on it, Doctor Who is unlike anything else. It's got such a family feel
Yeah.
to it. And I think everyone without, has a huge love for it.
And when you go up to Cardiff, when you go and interview these people, when you go and meet the current cast and you write articles about them, does the BBC have to check over it to make sure there's nothing that you accidentally wrote there that might class as a spoiler, even though you didn't think it was spoilery when you were writing it? Do you have to get like the BBC's approval before it goes into the print?
With a lot of with the current stuff, with the things that are, say, for Shooties season 1, or for when we were covering the specials just before they aired, or when they aired, they will have a look at it. They don't tend to change much because we know what we're doing on our, we know that we're not going to give. Actually, the writers on Doctor Who magazine, I will say, they're all, and it astonishes me, they're so good at writing entertaining stuff and not saying anything. If you know what I mean, you can read this great spread. Like, I'll say, for example, like While Blue Yonder, we weren't really allowed to say anything about that. They wanted to keep it very much under wraps, more than the others. The others, we had more freedom, but with this, because it was essentially a two-hander,
Yeah.
and they were basically up against themselves. They didn't want to reveal that because that was the main crux of it.
Yeah.
And once that's out, then, what else can you say? So they really wanted to keep that quiet. And when we were doing a preview on that, and it was Emily Cook did the preview for it because she was the one that went on set for it. And I did say to her, oh gosh, this is going to be really difficult for you because they're not going to approve anything that gives things away. It's going to be really hard. But she came back with something that was really fun and entertaining, and sort of took the mickey and made a joke of that. And, so yes, in short, the BBC will look over stuff, and they will say, there might be the odd sentence that say, oh, could we not say that? We don't want to reveal such and such is even in it just yet. Or so yeah, there might be a few things where, because a lot of these things, they're written quite a way ahead of broadcast, and we'll, at the time of writing, we might think, oh well, they'll have surely announced such and such a character is going to be in it by now, or it will have leaked, and generally it might well have leaked, but it hasn't officially been announced, so we might have to remove names. Emily did it really well. She just had blanks and put redacted throughout her copy, to show how top secret it all was.
And since you've started working on Doctor Who magazine, how much has not just the magazine, but the way that, well, and the magazine, but the way that the magazine produces, how much has the magazine changed from when you started to like up until today?
Oh God, that is a difficult one. And it's a hard one to answer, because I love the magazine, and and I certainly would never, I think the magazine, though, because it's been going since God knows when, since I was 16, and it's been going so long. And because Doctor Who itself changes, and a lot of people don't like change, but Doctor Who, just for its sheer longevity, has had to change throughout the time. Well, so does the magazine. Just to keep up with the time. We can't have the magazine still looking and appearing like it did back in 1985 or 86 or 1993 or in fact, I actually did write an editorial piece for Doctor Who magazine back in, I think it must have been 1997 or so. Back in the late 90s, I did do one because I was chief sub at Panini then, and I think it was Alan Barnes was the editor, and he was away that issue. So I said, "Oh, I'll do the editorial piece." So there is one somewhere out there that I did back then. Now the magazine, of course, has changed a lot in its design and in its look. But I would like to think that it's also kept its core heart in the same way that the look of Doctor Who, the program, has changed. It's still got that same heart that it has when you watch William Hartnell or when you watch the classics. It's still got that same sense of wonder. And I think the magazine, yeah, we've sort of, we alter the look of it and the change. We might focus on certain different things. I do think, and this has nothing to do with me, and my predecessor would have done it, I'm sure, had he been around them. We focus a lot or try to on the current era while not forgetting what's happened before. We do still like to give credence, but obviously when the show's on air or it's about to come on air, this is Doctor Who magazine, we want to focus on what's new, what's coming. And so we will, during these sort of times, focus a lot on the Ncuti Gatwa era. But don't worry, we won't forget all the doctors that have gone before. They won't be as heavily featured as him at the moment because that's what readers do want to see. Well, what is coming up? What is happening? What has he got to say on things? Or what has Millie got to say on things? Or what, what monsters have we got coming now? Rather than just looking back. Hey, it's a magazine about a show about time travel. So let's look forward as well as looking back.
Yeah, and because the magazine is available to purchase online, and
Yeah.
theoretically you could buy it anywhere in the world. I haven't tried that, so I don't know that that's definite, but it probably is. How do you make sure that the magazine is relevant to not just in the UK, because certain things might not be available in the US yet, or like Tales from the TARDIS, for instance, never made it outside the UK. How do you make sure that the magazine is relevant to not just the UK fans?
Yeah, I mean, actually, we do get a few sort of gripes, from the States or from other countries of, oh, we haven't got that. We haven't got that. Yet when is it coming out here? And we're like, oh dear, look, sorry. When I know Tales of the TARDIS isn't on Disney Plus yet, or I don't know if it's going to be, but isn't it good to know about these things? And I'm sure you'll be able to find it somehow, somewhere. So we do try to look, and also I'm very interested in fans in other parts of the world and what they do and how they celebrate Doctor Who and how it works for them. I always want to hear from them and things. But yeah, a lot of the stuff by its nature, it is kind of UK centric
Yeah.
in a way because so much of the material, while the show itself is now available across the world, there are certain parts that, yeah, they're difficult to find outside the UK. But I still think if I was living in, I don't know, yeah, Alabama, I'd still want to know that that's there. And then it'd be up to me how I manage to track it down and get it.
Yeah, and I know that there's a video out there online where someone's pieced together all the joining bits from Tales from the TARDIS to merge it into a complete collection, so people can view the special created scenes because everyone can watch the episodes if they've got the
Yes.
DVD player. So that bit's not the worry. If you just the conjoining bits, and it's on YouTube. So if you want to watch it, guys, you can do. Uh,
Yes.
it's
Well,
amazing.
that's it. They'll always be able to find it eventually on YouTube. They'll be able to find these bits and clips. And Tales of the TARDIS was great. Mhm.
And if people out there are watching this, what advice could you give them if they wanted to either pitch or write an article for Doctor Who magazine? What advice could you give people who might want to do that?
Yeah, well, we are always looking for new writers, and I always want to give. It's great when you get a new writer and you get people coming in. I would say, yeah, pitch me at here I go. Yeah, okay. Pitch me at jquinn at panini.co.uk. There you go. Send me a thing if I like it. Now, I do get a lot of pitches, and sometimes, for some reason, they come in waves, and they always seem to come the week we're going to press, where I have literally no time whatsoever. And I keep thinking, oh, I must read that when I've got a bit more time. I've got, and then I forget about it because another mountain of emails and things have come in. And so sometimes I feel, oh, I must seem like such a, that horrible man. He says send in pictures and then doesn't get back to us. And I know it's terrible. It's really bad. And I try my best
Yeah,
to, but sometimes as well. I mean, sometimes it's like, because you never want to, you get some dreadful ideas
yeah,
sent to you. You get some that are absolutely awful or really boring or really, but I don't want to say that to anyone. I never want to, I'd always like to try and find a nice way of saying no.
yeah,
But that's not to say that I will say no, because then someone might come up with something that's actually really good. And yeah, we'll use that.
yeah,
Over the next few issues, we're really sort of we've got loads of stuff because it's all going to be focusing from about yeah, we've got two issues to go, and suddenly the TV will be back. It'll be back on air, and so we'll be focusing a lot on these episodes. So there won't be much room. There won't be any room really over the next 4 or 5 issues for newcomers, but it's always good to have stuff in the bag, and it's always good to see someone who could be really promising or could be, oh yeah. And sometimes people will send them in to say the website or to the Doctor Who magazine email. And I don't always see all of those emails. Yeah, I don't. But if you send it to me on mine, then I will eventually see them, and if I like it, I won't promise to get back to every single person who sends me a pitch. I wish I had time to, but I don't. But if I like it, or if I don't like it, but I actually think that has real promise in some way, then I will get back to them.
yeah.
So yeah, pitch the ideas. Make sure it's not something that we've done, which is harder than you think. And make sure it's something that you can do, that would be possible without it adding more work for me. Make sure it is something that the writer can do, and uh, send it in.
Yeah, and they do say that not that there's no original ideas anymore, but there is original ideas. It depends on how mad you are to think
Yeah,
of an idea. You have to be really mad to come up with an original idea. It must seem. Um,
that's right. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an original idea so much as an original voice as well. An original voice is every bit as important as the original idea, if not more so. The way something can be put across and be individual, be yourself, and most of all, be interesting and be fun. Don't make it like a textbook. Don't nobody pick, well, actually some people pick up the magazine liking that, but on the whole, people pick up a magazine to be entertained and to be and for enjoyment, not to feel like they're studying really hard. So you can be really informative, but please do it in a fun way.
and some people might use it as studying textbooks because apparently I learnt recently you can become a doctor in Doctor Who. You can get a doctorate and you can be the professor of Doctor Who at any university once you become a doctor and get a master's degree. Someone's got a master's degree in Eurovision and made on to BBC talking about it.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. He had a laptop and he knew the exact numbers of who came when he was doing a countdown list, and he knew exactly how many points they got, where they stood, at what point when they were making the performance.
That is wow. Well, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so some people might be practicing for their Doctor Who exam, which is a weird sentence to say, but who knows? Who knows? Well, the Doctor knows. And
Yes,
how long does it take for you to write a single issue because you've got to work on some of the other issues all at once?
we do. Yeah, we do. So we'll plan. We'll roughly plan a few issues in advance. So we'll see. Okay, right. So we know in issue 604 we'll be doing previews of the episodes that'll be coming on, that'll be on TV while that's on sale. So we can do previews for that, and then the following one we can have the more in-depth set reports and stuff. So mainly we'll be doing planning, and luckily I'll then, once we've decided we've hit on our plan for what each issue is and what the issue is, then we can go about commissioning the writers to do the interviews. A lot of the interviews will have already been done. So it's like, say, for when we do our previews and when we do our set reports on what's going to be happening in the forthcoming season on TV, a lot of those interviews took place on set,
Yeah,
and it'll be nearly a year since they were filmed.
yeah,
So they will have been done way back then. So they will have been written in advance, a lot of them. Some aren't. Some of our writers like to keep you waiting, and you're still waiting with each issue that goes by, rather than doing it straight away. Everyone to their own. So it generally takes, I would say, it's probably about 3 weeks of intense work on an issue, and then in the other few days left of the month, we'll be looking at what's next, or what's next, and also tidying up a few bits from the previous one, for it to go, because it goes to print and then there's a wait while it's printed before it goes on sale. So then we have to go back and make sure that the digital one is ready to be released
Mm.
on that certain day.
And when the issue once the issue's been on sale, do you look online to see what people think of the issue and the reviews, or do you just move on to the next issue and not think about what the fans are thinking about the magazine?
Um, yeah, it's hard not to. You do have a look and see, and it's like, actually Russell T Davis did tell me. He said, don't look on, don't go online and don't look that way, and don't go on social media to look at how things are or what they're saying. It'll lead to unhappiness or that. But being human, you can't help but. So of course you do. Yeah, you do look and see, and yeah, of course, we all do. Me, Mike, the designer, Richard, who's the deputy editor, or yeah, we of course we look.
Yeah. And with each issue that comes out, is is it more, does it get like more fun with every issue, or are you more nervous that you've got like this next issue too and you can't really have fun with the previous issue because you're still thinking slightly ahead of yourself?
We no, we always have fun with an issue, and we always, there can be some where it's always fun with it. So we do always have fun, but also we're always quite nervous. It's always a bit. Are people going to like this? Oh, this is because each issue is different and offers something else and something, and you want it to work. So it's always a bit nerve-wracking just before it comes out. You're like, oh, God, is this one going to do well? Are people going to like this one? So you never stop feeling nervous about it,
Yeah,
but at the same time you never stop enjoying it or feeling, okay, this is going to be a good one. This is, there's some where you're in between seasons where it can be a bit difficult, and you're like, oh gosh, what are we going to put in here? How can we still keep up the excitement
yeah,
or the interest building on this, but we can't really reveal anything just yet. So sometimes we have to put our thinking caps on to think, how are we going to make this fun and interesting? But then in those times, just before it comes on air or while it's on air, that's so easy. Most of our job is done for us almost.
and why do you reckon the Doctor Who magazine has survived, even though with the changing habits of how people view like print media?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because it's defied kind of the norm for years. Now, I remember when I first joined Marvel UK back in 1993, I think, or 94. Back then, and Doctor Who had been off air for a while. And I was surprised then that Doctor Who magazine was still going. And it was really popular. I had a great editor then. It was Gary Russell was the editor then. And it was still really popular. And throughout those years, while I was at Panini for the first time, it had a certain air about it. And it was like, how has it avoided being cancelled when magazines drop off? How has it managed to keep a decent, make itself profitable, make it worth a company like Panini or Marvel or whoever, investing in it month after month when it's not on air. because generally and at that time there were loads of licensed magazines, based on TV shows. As soon as they were off air, the sales of those magazines would drop
Yeah,
and the magazine would die a death and it would be cancelled. But Doctor Who managed to survive. And I think I can only say, and of course, these days, with print magazine, print, yeah, sales, they decline all across, no matter what the magazine, whether it's Vogue or whether it's, whether it's Rolling Stone or whether it's, none of them are doing what they did
yeah,
20, 30 years ago, in terms of sales. But they still keep going. And Doctor Who magazine, especially, I think it's got to be that it has a very loyal
yeah,
fan base. And that loyal fan base, some of them love to complain about changes and about things that happen. And, we need more classic stuff or we need more. But the thing is, they've stayed with it so much so they're welcome to complain and because they're so loyal
yeah.
that think, yeah, you know what? Uh, yeah, great, good for you. We will try and put as much of the classic stuff in as we can, but you've got to bear in mind when there's new seasons coming up, we're going to be looking at that.
And do you reckon that another reason for its longevity is because when Doctor Who's like not on TV, there still is the books, there still is the audio. Do you reckon it's because of the expanded media as well? Is another factor that made Doctor Who magazine still in this because he still had stuff that was coming out that was new that was ready to cover.
Yeah, 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 I think so. Although, I mean, I'm not sure if many people buy the magazines so they can look at what other Doctor Who stuff apart from the show is there. It's always good to have those things in because it's interesting and you can come across some real gems
Yeah,
there. Yeah, yeah, you can whether it's a book or whether it's an audio or whether it's the latest figure from character options or so. There'll always be something. But I mean, I do think on the whole, it's the fans they love the magazine. They may not love everything in the magazine, but it's a part of them, of a lot of those readers. And even when the show, there's, we all have episodes that we like, and some of us have some episodes we're not so keen on. And so, but even when it goes through a certain doldrums as far as certain readers might consider, they also know, you know what, that's not going to last forever. Doctor Who is all about change, and we still love what's been, and we're going to love what's going to come again. So they stay and they carry on. And I don't know about you, but when I see an episode that I don't like, which isn't very often, but it does happen now and again, there'll be one or two that don't go into my top 10. And that I always feel a bit guilty. It's a bit like you've got annoyed with your mum,
yeah,
or I feel like, oh, because Doctor Who's almost like a family member. It's almost like, and when I find myself not like it, I actually feel a bit guilty.
yeah,
If I don't see it live, on the transmission day, even though I don't have to, because I might have seen it before transmission, or I'll see it after on iPlayer. I feel a bit guilty then that I haven't seen it at that moment. So it has a weird it is like family. It plays these little mind games with you.
And for me, when if I don't see it on transmission, which is very rarely, but if I don't, I get slightly annoyed because it means that my review of the episode is delayed, and B, it's
Yeah.
by the time I then up one, I don't see the point because well, I still do it, and I still see the point, but a lot of other people have done it. So you're less likely for people to watch your review after they've seen like 50 others because some weird reason, the moment the episode ended, there's only a review uploaded. I don't know. They've never seen it early because they've made it clear that they've not seen it early, but
Yeah.
it's just out there
How does
for 30 minutes or something.
how does that happen? I mean, they must have banged it out. And some of these reviews are really well written and really good. And you think, God, they did that in a hurry. You know, they really did.
Yeah,
They must have been making notes while they were watching, but then you're not going to miss what's coming next.
yeah. And I think that with having Doctor Who being everywhere now in like different medium, fans are
Yeah.
making their own stuff with fan audios, fan videos. Do you reckon that also helps with the fact that people still want to read the magazine and people still want to find out what's happened because you've got the section and find out like what the editor of that section of the magazine thinks are their favourite videos of that issue. Do you reckon that that's another indicator that the magazine's not going to go anywhere anytime soon?
Yeah, I think so. I do. I think all of this helps and all of that does, and it all builds interest. And, and I've tried with the mag, and some people say, "Oh, he's such a big head." He's like, "Oh, look at it, ego. Oh, it should be Jason Quinn magazine, not Doctor Who magazine." Or you think, no, okay, yeah, I am a big head. Yeah, but no, I'm not this massive egocentric sort of guy. In fact, I'm quite modest, sort of, But no, the reason behind that, apart from that it's fun, uh, is to kind of give an identity to for the readers of the people in the mag, that put this mag together. And and okay, that's me, but also we feature, we've put Mike, our art editor, and Richard, and I kind of wanted to just give them
Yeah,
or us a bit of an identity. It makes the magazine a little bit more welcoming, or it makes you sort of feel again part of something.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not to everyone's liking, but nothing is.
yeah. And do you reckon that because of the way that Doctor Who's existed in all different forms for so long, do you reckon that that's why that when people think of different brands, Doctor Who is always the brand that people think of because it's like been around in all these mediums, and do you reckon that's why Doctor Who is like beloved? Not even like even your nan that might have seen like 4 seconds of it, and it was like 50
Yeah.
years ago, she'll still remember what Doctor Who is.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, I think it even goes even beyond that. Yeah, it is all of these things. But it's been around so long, but it didn't actually take very long before it became part of the British culture. I mean, Daleks and things were within a couple of years, they were suddenly part of the British culture, and they've not gone away. 60 years later, they're still here, very much a part. Anyone can picture a Dalek, or anyone, even if they've not seen Doctor Who, they see a Dalek and they'll go exterminate. Yeah, they will. We'll all do that. So we all know it, even those people that have never watched an episode know it, or they know the TARDIS, and they may not have ever seen a real police box. In fact, most people won't have now, but they'll all recognize the TARDIS.
Yeah, and it's like when people think of Britain and think of cup of tea, think of the Beatles, they think of Doctor Who.
Yeah, it is. It's very much, and again, that's people in the States or in Europe or wherever, where they may not have seen much Doctor Who, but they will have seen those things will have come across. Like, yeah, like a policeman, a Bobby and his a policeman with the police helmet and it's very much a part of the British culture. It's just seeped into pop culture. And
And
yeah, like the Beatles as well. Like and that should be fun actually, seeing Doctor Who and the Beatles together.
and that would be ironic because now they've announced 4 different biopics of each member of the Beatles.
I heard that yesterday on the radio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be funny. That'd be fun to see if the cast the same people that are in Doctor Who for that.
Oh,
Because let's see if they're very good at portraying the band.
yeah. I wonder. I'm sure they're going to be great. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that episode.
Yeah, and what's on a sort of like side note, what's really funny, or really interesting recently, there's a Doctor Who fan that I shan't pronounce his name because I'm gonna get it horrifically wrong, but he does like fan audios and fan dramas, for Doctor Who, and he had somehow, and I don't know the full story, but I know half of it, but he somehow found one of Paul McCartney's missing guitars that's been traveling around the news, and he
Yeah.
and he's like in the fan world of making audio dramas and fan drama. He is like one of the he's in the top 3 top dogs in like the most like well respected in the
Yeah.
field, and that is even funnier because like it's like Doctor Who and the Beatles are going to become a thing on screen, but we're also
They
having
are.
fans interacting with the Beatles in real life.
Yeah, I mean it is crazy, and it's such a sort of strange thing. And when I was in India as well, one of which is a funny thing about how the Beatles again worldwide. I actually did a graphic novel history of the Beatles. So I've written a book on them as well, and did this so in comic book form. So I've had my links to them as well.
Yeah, and this question, what I'm gonna have to try and phrase it. So, from what you can tell us, right? What can you say that you got excited coming up in the next issue of Doctor Who magazine? So when I say next issue, I mean like the next issue that's going to be on sale, or if the current issue is on sale, the one that's going to be on sale next. It's whichever day.
Yeah. Okay, gosh, right. Okay. The next one. Oh, the next one. Yeah. The next one there, which we just sent to print. When did we send it? Yesterday. It was like the middle of the night. It was about 2 in the morning. We signed it all off. So yeah, it can be really late nights on those print deadline days because you get last minute changes and last minute things, and you're hoping against hope that you'll finish it by around 5 or 6, but then we find that we're still there at 10, 11, and then and sometimes this time it was till around 2 in the morning. So yeah, this coming issue, oh, we've got a new feature starting there, which is script to screen, which is looking at how they will take the creation of a monster, or it might be a monster, or it might be a gadget, or it might be a thing, but from the script description right through to the finished thing that you see on screen. So in this one, we're looking at the goblins from Russell's first description of them, and the Goblin King and the Goblin Ship, from the first description of it right through how they were, the discussions, the original sketches, the thing, and right through then the CGI, the real people, and all of that. So, and that's going to be an ongoing kind of feature that will look at all the sort of major monsters and creatures and villains and things that are coming up. We also then have a little look at we speak with the costume designer on there, which is, I mean, costume now, I think possibly more than ever, is a massive part. It's going to be a nightmare for all those who like cosplay, because you're not going to have just one 15th Doctor costume. You're going to want them all. And, he does change quite a bit. So, yeah, we have an interview with Pam Down, who's the costume designer on that.
And this happens in, well, from what I've known, it happens in, well, must happen in most sectors, but mainly in comedy. When comedians become like engrossed in comedy, do it all the time, they don't really tend to go home and watch something like a comedy at home. They sometimes watch something that's about some horrific murder to set them in the correct mood. Do you still find it fun to sit down and watch Doctor Who, or do you, when you watch Doctor Who now, you think of it as work instead of as leisure time?
No, well, the funny thing is, when I started on Doctor Who magazine, my wife had never watched Doctor Who before, and I mean, obviously she was aware of it, but she'd never actually watched an episode, and so I was like, well, that's got to change. And this was back in July, I think, and so we started watching. Then we said, well, you're going to have to. I said, come on, you're going to actually really enjoy it, and she loves it. And so we started from Rose and worked right there. I said, I want us to have watched all of these before the specials start. And by God, she binge watched season after season. And so, no, I will still watch it for pleasure. In fact, this afternoon, now after getting a magazine off to press, the next day you feel a little bit tired and worn out, and you're like, oh, But I had to get to work commissioning stuff for the next issue and things like that. But then I thought, you know what, I'm really tired. I'm going to take a break. So actually today I did take a break and I was watching Pyramids of Mars. So I do still watch Doctor Who for pleasure. Yeah. I mean, it's not all I watch. I do watch other
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But
We have to have other interests. We can't just live off. Well, I could do if I wanted to, but
yeah.
I have to have a personality other than Doctor Who.
Yes.
I have to I have to be interesting to people that don't know what on earth I'm on about.
Yeah. Comedy's good as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah.
yeah. Because comedy and Doctor Who have mixed before with obviously Curse of Fatal Death, um,
Yes.
which should have come to DVD and not just stuck at VHS. Um, but that's just my personal opinion. Other
No,
people,
I'm sure it will. It will. Everything will eventually.
yeah. And so coming towards the end of this, I haven't sorted that dictionary yet. I keep on telling all the people I'm going to interview I'm going to swallow a dictionary. And not literally, it's just I need to find a better one than one excellent, because I use that word too often.
Yeah.
So as we're coming towards the end of this, extraordinary and fantastical. There you go. If
Yes.
that's not a word already, it is now.
Yeah.
Write that down, Susie. Then shouldn't on the dictionary, but she acts like she should. And so, where can people find you? And don't give away your home address.
Yeah, no, you can check out you can check us out on Facebook, you can check us out on Twitter or X, sorry. Uh you can check us out on all, yeah, Doctor Who magazine. It's there on X, it's there on Twitter, it's there on Instagram. And we're slowly but surely sort of getting more of a presence on social media than we have in the past. So yeah, please do and check us out, what we're doing. As to where you'll find me, well, I'm not gonna say. I don't want to get stalked. But
Yeah. And so there we have it. What a lovely, amazing, extraordinary, and fantastical interview. Yes.
whoa.
Thank you for letting me interview you.
Well, yeah, my pleasure. You were effervescent.
Thank you. I will take that word forwards because that is an amazing word.
That's a good one.
It is.
Yeah.
And so, where you can find more of my interviews, well, because I run 20 YouTube channels, who knows? Not even me. I never know because it depends on who I'm interviewing, and then it depends on their criteria of whether or not there is certain level of whatever to depend on what channel they go on, to depend on what areas you do. So it's a complicated process that doesn't shouldn't be that complicated, but there you go. That's what happens when you pretend when you are a genius, but you're not narcissistic about it. So there you have it. Thank you guys for watching. There'll be more videos on the Tom Mason YouTube channel soon in the usual hours, and it'll be
Yes.
all about Doctor Who and all the Doctor Who nonsense. It's not nonsense, but it depends on who you ask. Uh, it depends on if you think I'm talking nonsense, but who
Ah,
knows? I don't even know that, and I'm the one.
we all talk nonsense.
So there you have it. Thank you guys for watching. Time out about. Bye.